Right, you have your 4 tunics. So they all have muscularis mucosae. So you've got mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa, or adventitia. Right, so start at the top. What type of epithelium?
Simple squamous.
Stratified squamous. Right? So your choices are esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. Okay? To confirm it's esophagus, should you have adventitia or serosa at the bottom?
Adventitia.
Adventitia. And there is no simple squamous epithelium down there, so it is adventitia. And also, glands, right? Submucosal glands are present in the esophagus. Muscularis mucosae, externa, so this is submucosa. Yes, there's glands there. You can even see a duct going all the way to the surface. So based on the tunic, these are submucosal glands, but based on the organ, they're also called esophageal glands. Yep. Can I have that one? All right, so familiar, right? Stratified squamous. We're thinking esophagus. Pharynx or stomach? Because we're at the junction between the esophagus and something. Right, so if it is stomach, what would you expect to see in the muscularis externa?
Circular.
3 layers instead of just 2, right? Well, this one only has 2, but that's just because we're at the junction. We're not far enough into the stomach to see that 3rd layer. So don't let that throw you off. But what do you notice about the thickness of this circular compared to what we saw here?
Oh, so it's much thicker.
Right, that's the inner circular on top, outer longitudinal at the bottom. You see how much thicker it is?
Mm-hmm.
So what sphincter are we at here? If you have thick circular smooth muscle, you've got a sphincter. Cardiac sphincter or gastroesophageal sphincter. So what type of epithelium is this? Simple columnar. And then these glands, which are mucosal glands, but based on the organ, gastric glands. We're starting to see gastric glands. And these are blood vessels down here in cross-section. And then at the bottom, you see the simple squamous epithelium. Right, so you have serosa there. So these structures.
Microvilli. Or the villi.
Villi?
Just regular villi, yeah.
And then the type of epithelium. Simple columnar again, right? Everything's simple columnar or stratified squamous. So the presence of villi excludes esophagus, stomach, large intestine. It can only be small intestine. You need to figure out if it's duodenum or jejunal-ileum. Because we don't have one for jejunum and one for ileum, so we'll just combine the two, jejunal-ileum or duodenum. Serosa or adventitia at the bottom?
Serosa.
So what does that exclude? Which part of the small intestine does not have serosa because it's retroperitoneal? Duodenum.
So this is ileum.
And to confirm what should be present that is not present here if it was duodenum.
Would it be the pyrus patches?
Yeah.
Those are in the ileum.
Those are in the ileum? Okay. So those are...
Duodenal glands. Submucosal glands. There's no submucosal glands. There's glands up here, but these are mucosal glands. And what are they called in the small intestine? Intestinal glands or crypts. And the old name is crypts of Lieberkühns. The white cells, as part of that simple columnar epithelium. Goblet cells. This thing?
Is that the intestinal?
Lymphatic follicle.
Oh, so pyrus patch.
Not Peyer's patch necessarily, but Malt or Galt. And I say not necessarily Peyer's patch because follicles are everywhere. Stomach, duodenum, jejunum, ileum, large intestine. But yeah, it's possible that this is ileum and that this is part of Peyer's patches. Very possible. I just don't want you to think that because there is a follicle present that it is ileum. Not necessarily. For example, there's a follicle here. This is not ileum. All right, so you see villi. So that tells you this is
Small
So we're either looking at the junction between small intestine and large, or small and stomach. So large intestine and stomach have kind of similar characteristics at the top because they both have simple columnar epithelium and they lack villi. It's kind of flat. So really what I would do is I would go to the intestine side of this and figure out, is it duodenum or ileum? And if it's duodenum, then this is stomach. And if it's ileum, then this is large intestine. Duodenum or ileum? Do you see all those glands? And they're in the submucosa. You only find that in duodenum. And the name of these glands? Duodenal glands. Yeah. What's this huge layer of muscle that takes up half the model?
Is that the longitudinal muscle?
So outer longitudinal, inner circular. Right?
That's the
That's always the
circular.
pattern. Deep superficial always. So what is it when you have a super thick circular layer? That's a sphincter. What sphincter is between the small intestine and the stomach? Pyloric sphincter, right? The biggest, strongest of all the sphincters, and that's why they made this so thick. Duodenum, right? Lack of serosa, presence of submucosal glands. And they do break up the muscularis mucosae a little bit. It is true that fibers do go up into the villus, and that's what moves them. It's what makes them wiggle all the time. I don't know why they put it so far down there. It's not necessary. It's fine. Okay, so let's compare. Can I have this one too? Yeah. This is a better comparison, actually. All right, so they both have serosa at the bottom. All right, and then they both have a similar top. But one's much thicker, right? One has a much thinner wall. And then also, what's this thing here, that round thing?
It's a lymphatic follicle.
And then the round thing on this model?
Lymphatic.
Same thing, right? But where are they huge? All right, so good. Is this small intestine or large? That's true. We should start with that. Do you see any villi? Can't be small. Got to be large.
Okay.
Now, just based on the top, could be stomach, but what allows us to rule out stomach for these? There's only 2 layers to muscularis externa. That third layer is not there.
Yeah.
All right, so not stomach, it's large intestine. And then in this model series, we have one for the large intestine or colon and one for the appendix.
Okay.
So how does the wall of the appendix compare to the wall of the rest of the large intestine? Thinner,
probably
thicker,
thinner.
same?
It's really thinner.
It's thinner. Yeah. Appendix,
It's
right?
thinner. And
Colon.
it has a huge lymphatic follicle.
Yes,
So that makes sense.
and that's the other thing. While it has a thinner wall, the bulk of the wall is taken up by those huge follicles. So this is appendix or vermiform appendix.
That's a cool.
Colon. some part of the colon. Right, still follicles, but smaller. All those white cells, should they be, and they didn't do this correctly, should they be more numerous on the large intestine or the small? Because I see roughly the same number here.
This be more.
Large.
More
Way more.
large. Oh.
And the mucosal glands are larger in the large intestine. So why bigger glands dominated by goblet cells? What do you need a whole lot of in the large intestine?
Mucus.
More so than the small.
Yeah, mucus, because you're dehydrated.
Right. You're dehydrating the chyme, it's becoming feces. You need a lot more mucus to keep this material moving. This one. So you look at the top, there's no villi, so it's not small intestine, it's not stratified squamous, it's not esophagus, so it's either stomach or large intestine. So you go to the layers of smooth muscle and you see there's 1, 2, 3 layers. All right, so definitely stomach. How about this layer here? Right, and the angle, right, will determine whether you're looking at it in cross-section or longitudinal. So this is the innermost oblique, followed by the inner circular, followed by outer longitudinal. So I always call it inner circular, outer longitudinal, but when you have the third layer, it's innermost oblique. These red cells, right? So the chief are way more abundant. So the chief are the lighter color, the smaller cell.
Parietal?
Parietal. Yeah, those larger red ones are parietal. Aside from parietal and chief, what would you find near the bottom of the pit, the gastric pit?
The ECL cells.
Mucous neck cells.
Oh.
How about the epithelium lining the rest of the pit and the surface epithelium? So it's all blue here. What's all that? Mucus cells. But how do the mucus cells of the surface differ from the mucus cells in the neck, where the pit merges with the gland?
They have more water?
No. It's pH.
Oh, more acid?
So which
Or
secrete an
alcohol.
acidic mucus? The mucous neck cells or the surface? The mucous neck cells, to make sure that when the acid leaves the parietal cell, it doesn't get immediately neutralized or buffered on its way up through the gastric pits. But the surface epithelium has to have an alkaline mucus to protect it, right, from damage, inflammation from the low pH. Little follicle there, right, part of GALT, gut-associated lymphatic tissue. And then at the very, very bottom of the gastric glands, there is another cell type down there. What would that be? G cells, enteroendocrine cells. And remember, the ECL cells, they're in the lamina propria around the glands. They don't actually make up part of the gland. Did I get them all? I think so. All right. There's more stuff. I'll go over whatever we have.
We got 4 minutes. 4 minutes, yeah.
All right, so at the very bottom here, these two, the pink and yellow together, serosa, right? This is a simple squamous epithelium. If it was just the yellow adventitia, but we do have the squamous epithelium there. This layer,
The longitudinal.
what part? Yes, which part? So not this, just this.
Longitudinal.
Longitudinal layer of muscularis externa. This, circular.
layer of it.
Between them, the yellow. Those are nerves. Which one?
Couldn't remember the
The name that means muscle.
Musculars.
So muscle,
Oh,
gut,
muscles.
plexus. Myenteric plexus.
Myenteric plexus.
And then the yellow up in here.
Nerves.
Submucosal plexus.
Oh, submerged.
So the efferent neurons, motor neurons in the myenteric plexus control what? Muscularis externa. Submucosal plexus, motor neurons control? Which? What's this layer called here? Smooth muscle. Muscularis mucosae or mucosa? What else? Besides muscle, is being controlled by the submucosal plexus. Which glands? So here's a big submucosal gland, and there it is from the side. Now, you only have those in the duodenum, and this is meant to show small intestine, and you know that because there's villi at the top, right? However, if this really was duodenum, there would be no serosa. So they're not trying to use this to show the duodenum or the jejunal-ileum, just a general representation of small intestine, features of small intestine. But yeah, that alone would mean duodenum, and if we didn't see these submucosal glands, but we did see the serous membrane, then it would be jejunum and ileum. This thing here? Mm-hmm. So the collection of follicles within the mucous membrane of the digestive tract is called? GALT, gut-associated lymphatic tissue. The blue cells, little blue dots here.
Are those the chief cells?
Goblet cells.
Oh, goblet.
And then all of the pink ones,
Those chief.
absorptive cells.
Oh, absorptive.
So the intestinal epithelium is a mixture of goblet cells and absorptive cells. And then this gland here and here and the two on the side, these are mucosal glands, which you would call what in the small intestine? Intestinal glands or crypts, intestinal crypts. The green here, and then the rest of the green. Collecting vessels. I think that's it. There's a really big liver model. I can start with this, then we'll find that liver model. There is one up there, but I thought there were two. That's all right, we'll grab that one in a minute. The liver sits like this. So what's this lobe here?
Superior.
Right lobe. And then all of this?
Left lobe.
Left lobe. And then falsely separating those lobes, the sheets of tissue? Falciform ligament.
Falciform.
So that sheet comes down, and then this cord-like structure follows it. What's this cord-like structure? It's a ligament and it's round. Round ligament.
Oh, that's it? Round ligament? Oh.
Ligamentum teres.
Oh, ligament teres. Oh, that's a gallbladder?
Gallbladder. The small lobe next to the gallbladder. Quadrate lobe.
Oh, quadrate lobe.
And then this blue vessel here.
Inferior vena cava.
And then this tail-like lobe next to it.
The hepatic artery proper?
Caudate, which means tail.
Caudate. Still. Oh.
So you have caudate next to vena cava, quadrate next to gallbladder. So quadrate and caudate are similar, in a similar location. They're both inferior. The white vessel, hepatic portal vein.
Oh, hepatic
the red.
portal. Hepatic artery proper?
Mm-hmm. Hepatic artery proper. Oh, I know. This duct here.
Oh, common, yeah.
No. No.
The bile,
Left hepatic duct.
oh, left hepatic
And
duct.
this one.
Right hepatic duct.
And they come together and form.
The common hepatic bile.
Common hepatic duct.
Oh, duct.
This one. So cystic duct joins up
Cystic
with
duct.
common hepatic,
Joins up
and they
with
form
common
this one that's been cut here. Common bile duct, which goes
Common
all the way to
bile
the
duct.
duodenum. Oh, there it is. You had it.
Giant liver lobule.
This is a beast of a model. It's freaking heavy. There's no way I can hold it. Okay. So the red, the blue, and the green, these three vessels together are called portal triad.
Portal triad.
So what you have to keep in mind is, this is the central vein. So what we have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 portal triads surrounding the central vein right here. So this is a section through a lobule, right? This is one big hexagonal unit called a lobule. And then all the brown here.
Here, let me move something. You got it?
All the brown. They're cells. Hepatocytes. And then running between hepatocytes are these light blue vessels. And they're going all the way from the portal triad to the central vein here. Sinusoids. They're sinusoidal capillaries. Lining the sinusoids are immune cells. They have a star shape. There's one right here. So one of their names is stellate cells for the star shape. We used to call them Kupfer cells, somebody's name. But now we call them, 2 words, tells you where it is and what it does. Macrophage, what it does and where it is. Liver, hepatic macrophage. So Kupffer cells are now called hepatic macrophages or stellate cells. And then also running between the plates of hepatocytes are these system of tunnels that have the bile in them. Bile canaliculi. And then how does the bile get into the bile duct, which is running this way?
The
The ductal.
Ductal, yeah.
So going in this direction, it's all canaliculi. They converge onto a ductal, and that runs perpendicular to the bile duct. The blood is going in the opposite direction, right, towards the central vein right here. So the arterial blood is going to mix with the venous blood, and it all courses through the sinusoids. So other than the central vein right here, that's about it. That's everything. Oh, the yellow is lymphatics, which they normally color green, but green was used for bile this time. Chris, do you want this one on your chair or over there? Oh, so one goes.
I just, it was on our counter. So
Ah, gotcha. All right. Organ?
It's a stomach. Oh no, that's the
Stomach.
and the stomach.
The yellow here.
What goes-
Lesser omentum.
Oh, lesser.
It is
omentum.
adipose. But the mesentery is called lesser omentum. And then this is
greater
the
omentum.
greater omentum, which has been cut. And this outer greater curvature and
lesser curvature.
yeah, right. These little ridges right here,
They're circular.
circular folds. So what
folds.
organ is this?
That's. It's getting into the small intestine in the
Duodenum.
beginning. Duodenum.
Yeah. And then right here, the thick layer of circular smooth muscle.
Is that the
Pyloric sphincters right
pyloric
here.
sphincter?
And these ridges,
The rugae.
rugae. This top portion of the stomach,
The fundus.
fundus. Yeah. The yellow here.
Adipose.
Which mesentery is it?
The
All the yellow's adipose. Greater omentum. Right? Drapes down, comes back,
Greater
and attaches
omentum.
to the top there. And then what about this connective tissue here?
smooth muscle.
It's attaching the transverse colon to the dorsal body wall.
The transverse.
Transverse mesocolon.
Mesenteric.
Yeah. This retroperitoneal organ back here. Duodenum. These little fatty pieces sticking out here. Well, if I call them appendages, I'd give away half the name. Fatty appendages or epiploic appendages or fatty appendices, epiploic appendices. The location's off though, because they hang off of this band of smooth muscle called tenei coli. So that's really where they should be, hanging off of the tenei coli. This turn right here, right, comes up, turns, goes forward. Left colic flexure or splenic flexure. It's under the spleen. And then on this side, right colic flexure or hepatic flexure. It's under the liver.
Because it's under the liver. Yeah. So hepatic flexure.
Oh, we can do this one. So just this piece here. Transverse colon,
Oh, yeah,
which
transverse
makes
colon.
this mesentery the
A transverse.
Transverse mesocolon.
Mesocolon.
right here. Yep. And the brown?
The brown stuff in there.
My kids could tell me what that is.
Is it poop?
Yes.
I didn't want to say it, but I was thinking.
You can use the F word if you'd like instead.
What's that?
Feces.
Oh,
Feces.
feces. I was like, they do that. I don't know what that is.
What? Alright, so right here there's a yellow line. That is a mesentery that is cut at the root where it attaches to the dorsal body wall, and then it flares out, fans out and attaches to all of the jejunoileum. So what's been cut right back here? And I have other versions of that I can show you. Here's a bigger one. So here it's cut. You can see these blood vessels in it. So what would that be? It fans out to the jejunum and ileum. Mesentery proper. Right? It's the cut root of mesentery proper. How about the mesentery that goes down to the sigmoid colon, right in here? Sigmoid mesocolon. The yellow in here. Chyme.
Oh, that's chyme.
This organ here.
Duodenum.
The ridges.
The circular folds.
Circular folds. The bottom white line there. So it goes all the way across down to here. Main pancreatic duct, and then above it, accessory pancreatic duct. The part of the pancreas that's tucked in, the C-shaped duodenum, so right in here.
The head.
Head of pancreas. Oh. This part of the small intestine right here.
The ileum.
Ileum. This part of the large intestine. Cecum. The valve between them.
Ileocecal valve.
Ileocecal valve. This appendage off of the
The
cecum.
appendix.
The vermiform appendix.
You have to say vermiform.
This is the entrance to it right there.
The vermiform appendix.
Yeah.
Because it's worm-like.
Worm-like.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Worm-like. Keep going.
Just keep going. Just keep going.
So here again is the cut edge of a mesentery that fans out to the small intestine, minus the duodenum. So this is the cut edge of mesentery proper. And then this is all, which parts? Jejunum and ileum, right? So here's where the duodenum enters, and then here's where the ileum empties into cecum. So this is all jejunum and ileum. Same here, right? Duodenum comes in here, ileum ends there, and what's the yellow? It's all greater omentum there. And this is transverse mesocolon. So they cut a window into part of jejunoileum here and here. Both have circular folds, but notice they're sparse down here, more abundant up here. So is this jejunum or ileum? Jejunum, right? Because the circular folds become more and more sparse as you move down to the ileum. And this again would be the cut edge of mesentery proper. Is there anything we haven't identified? We can't do lesser. The sagittal head, yeah, a little bit.
Do you mind doing this while I get my
Got the tongue model, we can do that.
Are there any models of teeth where they open up right?
Yeah, right up there next to the right of the hood.
And it opens up?
Like to, oh, I see what you're, yeah, we can
Oh,
do that
and
one, the microscopic anatomy.
The green trays too, right?
In the green tray, we do have the ileocecal valve.
Uh-huh.
We have the cecum and the ileum.
It's the one that you have to like look inside, right?
Mm-hmm. All right, so you didn't need to know the foliate papillae on the side, just the ones on top. So the smallest ones are called filiform, and then the mushroom-like one,
Fungiform.
fungiform, and then the really big ones that form a V, circumvallate or vallate papillae. And then right behind the vallate papillae, terminal sulcus, all of this. Lingual tonsil or tonsils left and right. And then for teeth, this one here.
Incisor.
Which one? Central incisor, then
Lateral incisor.
lateral incisor. And then
Premo. Or canine.
cuspid, canine, eye tooth. And then if this was a child, these two would be
First and second premolar?
molars.
Oh, okay.
And if this is an adult, these are premolars or bicuspids.
Okay.
Yeah. The full set of adult teeth are up there, and they show the 2 premolars and the 3 molars, right? 2, 1, 2, 3 is the dental formula. The pink stuff,
The ligament? Oh.
pulp.
Oh.
So the space containing the pulp cavity. And then down here, root canal. This stuff, it's got a ridge to it. Dentin, a bunch of little dentin tubules. And then the white enamel. And then the enamel disappears at the neck, and then what takes its place as the outermost layer?
Is that the
Cementum. Regionally, all of this is crown,
Crown.
and then right at the junction here, neck, and then
And the root.
root. In the black,
Would that be a cavity?
cavity, dental caries.
Dental caries. Cavity.
That one's so-so.